Hey everyone, this is Scott Medina for Sonic Perspectives. And look who we have here. We have Mr. Ross Jennings.
Hey
Just
there.
hey, good to see you, Ross.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about your new upcoming solo debut, and this is really exciting because you've got so much going on in your world. I'm sure even the past 18 months during this downtime looks like you haven't been sloughing it off too much here.
Yeah, I've tried to make the best use of this time. Since Haken haven't really been doing a lot, and all the touring got cancelled, and so yeah, we've all been presented with this uh, luxury of time to indulge, I guess. Some of us, anyway. A big part of why Haken stopped doing stuff was because the guys who had kids had to become basically full-time teachers
Oh,
and day carers and stuff. So yeah, so this is at the time. I do have a 6-month-old now, but at the time of making the record, I was a free agent and just dived straight into making some more music while I could.
yeah. So was it really the onset of COVID that kind of was the pressing point for making a solo album now, or were you kind of on track thinking about that anyway?
It's been an itch I've been wanting to scratch for a while, but we were yeah, and I'm wary of calling this a lockdown album, but the truth of it is, yeah, it was a big catalyst for allowing me to do this for sure.
Had you been working on these songs for a while, even previous to the COVID era?
Yeah, there's a few numbers that made the cut which had been songs I'd been toying with privately. Um, I'm not known for being a solo singer songwriter until now, but it's always been something I'd kind of indulge myself in on the side, and write songs all the time. So yeah, it's certainly a couple of tracks stood out for me as ones that would always be on the first record. But I when I started started this adventure, I was fortunate enough to channel a lot of new inspiration, and this led snowballed and led to a wealth of material which was brand new actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So at this point, now that you've finished the project, we're on the verge of releasing it in a few weeks from the time of this conversation. I mean, how are you seeing this fitting into your mandala of musical offerings, with Haken and Novena, and then we've got the recently announced upcoming Neil Morris, Steve Virgilio, Jennings project.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna be
How
back.
do you see the solo identity working into all those?
Yeah, I'm gonna be balancing a lot, juggling a lot. So it's really for me about throwing out a few creative outlets and seeing what's resonating with people. I'd like to think that all four of these projects can run in tandem and be successful in their own right. I certainly feel like they have different audiences, and we'll see what I can physically manage and juggle. But yeah, really excited to finally kind of find some self-worth and value my own individual identity, and put that out there to the world, because uh, I've always been more of a team player, and part of Haken obviously being the obvious one, but um, yeah, found myself working better in bands and bouncing off other people. So yeah, it's been a strange and courageous kind of leap of faith, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, and looking at the lyrical uh, aspect of the material too, is this like, I notice a lot of it's written in first person. So how much autobiography would you say is in the lyrics and the stories on the album here?
Yeah, a big part of it was self-reflection. Um, dealing with and navigating through relationships that may have been tense or otherwise. But yeah, it's a very personal album, and it did come off the back of having that cathartic experience and of learning how to heal from certain things, and I had my own issues at home and with various friendships were strained, and I found myself kind of reflecting and looking inwards and dealing with that, and it gave me a lot of inspiration to write about those experiences.
Right. Yeah. So, like, let's look at a song like Phoenix. Just the title alone is pretty evocative there, but it's also the longest song on the album. Goes through a lot of different sections, and then you've got this unexpected a cappella section toward the end. Maybe tell us about some of the messages you're conveying there.
In that particular song, there's memories of my time growing up with my granddad and grandma, and it evolves. It goes for a few. That particular track goes for a few different themes, but on the grand scale of it all, it's about stepping into a new self, as it were. I mean, that kind of relates to the title, and finding a new empowerment and things like this. So dealing with the past, learning from it, accepting it, moving forward. And that's really what the Phoenix was about. And I mean, musically speaking, that's going to please a lot of my prog followers, because that's one of the tracks that's sort of has more musical intricacies and has a longer song format. So
right.
Yeah, I didn't want to alienate that aspect of my fan base, but yeah, as you'd probably agree, this is a more accessible record, perhaps more relatable to people, and yeah, just a completely unexpected outlet probably for some people expecting prog rock, prog metal, whatever.
Right. I know we've got like classic rock in here. We've got some pop elements, some folk elements. It really runs the gamut, and it'll be interesting to see, if you pull in a lot of maybe the Haken Novena fans into this style too, or if in addition to that, you might just make new fans in and of itself, right?
Yeah, the game. I don't have a specific game plan, but I'd like to think people are very open-minded. I mean, I know I am as a consumer of music. I just have such a vast and eclectic taste of all different styles, and that really is what the album represents. It is a playlist of sorts. If you were to kind of file through my record collection and put a sort of playlist together of some of my favorites, then this is really what you're getting, and channeling through my own my own inspiration and my own original concepts.
Yeah, so did you go about that in like a specific conscious way of like, okay, I want to touch in on the 80s and in these songs, and then maybe some 90s influences here, or were there specific bands that you wanted to, maybe make a little homage to?
It wasn't too contrived like that. It all happened quite organically, and actually there was a lot more material which I kind of put to the side, and I had a bit of a routine where I'd have all my demos sort of in my ears, and I'd go out for a run and formulate the best kind of collection of music that I felt was right for the first release, and this is what I arrived at, really, based on that kind of that routine, and soaking in the material as a listener rather than a writer,
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bit of that. So yeah, I wasn't really too focused on copying or referencing. I think this happens quite naturally, just as things go. You realize afterwards, oh, that sounds like that. Okay, I see how that's happened.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, that says something, just to your level of creativity, that you were even putting things off on the side, maybe for the future, because I mean it's a long album. At some point, I wondered, is this a double album? There's a lot of material on here.
Yeah, I mean, as pop standards go, that is 2 albums worth of material. I mean, most records are 40 minutes average these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But I, in my where I was coming from was, I'm going to give this kind of one shot, get a big release out there, and have plenty of material to draw from if I was to go and do this live.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll see, but maybe a follow-up release won't be so long. But yeah, I have at least another album and a half of solo material, which I'll either use for solo or try and integrate into other projects.
Right.
It's always going to sit there and be used at some point. So
Yeah. Well, you brought in some fantastic musicians to support you in this project too. Maybe tell us a little bit about how you decided who your bassist and drummer would be, keyboardist.
Oh yeah, I was so thrilled with the results I got back from these guys. I deliberately wanted to avoid using personnel from my existing bands. I just wanted it to be a very clear, separate entity, and I have its own identity. As much as I, really love and respect everyone in my groups, Haken and Novena, and I think they're just phenomenal players. It was a decision which I felt was important to separate this from the others. So, firstly, I'll mention Nathan Navarro on bass. He's Devin Townsend's current bass player, actually. So I'm very lucky to have him on board. He's a phenomenal player, and he's good at dealing with the simple stuff, but when there is a time to shine, he's really coming into his own, and has created a lot of magic moments on this record for me, actually. So
yeah,
very grateful.
You can hear, like, in songs like The Apologist,
exactly. That's a particular one I think he's particularly proud of as well, and that's I gave him a nice canvas there to experiment as well. So that's, I'm really looking forward for people to hear that one in particular, and that's really where he shines. So yeah, absolute solid player. Vikram Shankar, anyone who knows him from The Silent Skies, he's teamed up with Thomas England from Evergrey and Redemption. Beautiful project. He's such an emotive pianist, and really recommend his work. And he went above and beyond for me, actually. I reached out to him to perform a couple of piano solos initially, and then he expressed his passion for the project, and that relationship evolved, and I really got some magical stuff out of him. He did all the string arrangements for me in the end as well. He took my basic ideas and arranged them for all the instruments, and that's just took that to another level completely, and some great keyboard performances on there as well. So.
Mm-hmm. And on drums.
And on drums, Simon Sandner has been a good friend of mine for, I would say 5-6 years now. He is the drummer of a band called Archetype, who supported Haken, I think it was 2016, on the Affinity tours. And we became really good friends. He'd worked with Haken as a crew member, actually, subsequently. But, in the sidelines, he's been evolving his career as a drummer. And he does a lot of promoting for... producer and drummers plugins and things like that. So he's been working the field in that department. He's a phenomenal drummer, and he's does a lot of session work for many people. So he's done a great job, and he's such a huge sound. He's brought. I really wanted that arena rock sound, and he delivered that for me, which is really cool.
Yeah, so cool to have a core band, throughout the whole album. Really helps give it an identity, even through these different styles that you have on here. So, and you're doing all the guitar work on here, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And that was a big part of the catharticism of this album, actually, was that I started off as a guitarist, really, like way back when I started my journey into music. And when we were starting and developing Haken, I think at the time I wasn't able to put in the rehearsal time, the practice time, to really get my chops up to speed, and I decided to focus on being a vocalist. So I put the guitar down and didn't really use it in a professional way ever since. Most people just know me as a singer. So it was really important for me that I dusted off the cobwebs and the guitar, and again, the time that was given to me was one of the silver linings of this awful situation, the COVID-19. But yeah, I had more free time to practice again. It's really cool. Yeah. and write music, and do some cool solo stuff, and I'm very proud of that element, actually, because I could have called upon some great guitar names, but I decided that was important for me to achieve that. That was just a personal thing, really. Yeah.
Well, it's probably going to surprise a lot of people. Like as you said, they think of you as a vocalist and lead frontman, and there's probably a good decision in the context of Haken. But boy, I mean, you cover it so well on here, and you've got some really nice lead work, but also just all the layers of rhythm and support guitar. I had to check the credits. I'm like, is this really us on the whole thing? So that's going to, I think, bring forward your identity in a much stronger way. So I would say that was a good call.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I've always had an affinity with the guitar, but like I said, I've never been able to really show off. And the other part of it was, I've surrounded myself with these fantastic musicians all this time. These guitarists I work with, Rich and Charlie, are phenomenal players. I'm not that level, and I'm happy to admit that. But that's not to say like I couldn't weave my skill level into this music, and I think I've done a great job. I'm really proud of myself for that.
Yeah, rightfully so. Nice. Well, looking at another couple of the specific songs on the album, we've got this other really long, more proggy piece called "Grounded," which you released as a single early on, which was, it's always interesting to me when someone chooses a more lengthy song as a single, especially when you have a lot shorter potential choices on the album. So what made you decide to go for that one to get out there early on?
Yeah, there was a couple of reasons for this. First and foremost, it's one of my favorite choruses that I've ever written. And one of my favorite tracks on the album, actually, to be fair. The song means a lot to me, and then there's a slight Pink Floyd style prog element to the track, which I thought would appeal to my fan base as well. So that's one reason. The second reason, I had a live stream event. It was a pre-recorded event, but essentially it was a live performance that was going out as a live stream, and because the record release was delayed so long until November, the live stream actually came out first. So with a bunch of material on there that people weren't familiar with, I decided that would be a track which would be good to release just before people got to see that, and so at least they had a couple of songs they were kind of familiar with.
Right. Yeah. Could you tell us a little more about the introspective aspect of those lyrics?
Yeah, it's really about it's a kind of spiritual awakening, I would say. This song is about me dealing with my that I've always been, I guess, a bit of a religious and spiritual skeptic. And there were certain things in my life which I won't specify now, but that were opening me up to the idea of a belief in a higher power, and it's just me taking that journey, I guess, was kind of an inspiration for this song lyrically. So I think that's really what I can say on that. And I think musically it couples quite nicely with that concept as well. because you have really this idea about me trying to find stillness in this chaotic world, and that whole section where it's just pedaling on an F major chord for about 2 or 3 minutes was representing finally my ability to maybe meditate and channel and find myself, so that's really what that was about.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought in that sax solo there too. It just fits in so beautifully.
It just had to be done. There was nothing else that could be there, really.
Yeah, and the video really reflects that nicely too. For it,
I think so. Yeah,
really nice, spacious. And speaking of videos, man, you've released some whoppers already for this album. Really creative, inventive ones. That one harkening back to Peter Gabriel kind of style, and then your new video game too that you've just released.
Yeah, the video game. I mean, that one was supposed to be the first single initially, but the project was so mammoth that it ended up taking a lot longer than we'd sort of expected. Which is obvious now because you can see how much work went into that. But at the time we didn't know if I could really get into a film set and do stuff live, with people and with a film crew. So we were coming up with ideas I was coming up with ideas of how to approach the music video side of things using animation, and that was one sort of idea I had. So I thought that went quite well with the music, and worked around the problem that we had. So.
Well, really exciting to see that kind of creativity take place. And
yeah.
I just saw your next single coming up, which probably will be released before we release this interview too, is for Catcher in the Rye. So who is that song written about?
Yeah, Catcher in the Rye is, it takes a step aside from the whole relationship elements of this album. I was actually ready to sign off this album, and then this is one of the last songs that kind of came in at the last minute. So, I thought it was so powerful that it had to be included, so we got that track added on. The song is about a dear friend who passed away a few years back now, but the song starts to focus on is that I have these 2 items that he lent to me, which was The Catcher in the Rye, the book, and a CD of Jim Morrison's poetry album, American Prayer. And I didn't get to see him again before I could return those items, and I thought that was just a powerful kind of anchor for the song about remembering a dear friend. And it's a special one for me. It really is.
Yeah, it conveys that nicely. Do you have a personal favorite song on the album?
That would be one of them. We obviously mentioned Grounded, so that's another special one. And I was glad I was able to put out the Violet single as well, because that's another one I thought was really quite a catchy number. And I'm quite proud of that as a song that I'd written. And to be honest, it's really difficult. I'm proud of all these songs, really am. There's not one that I prefer more or less than the other. I've selected sort of the cream of all the songs I'd written at that time. So
was the video for Violet, was that your initial inspiration as well?
Well, so I worked with an old friend who I went to university with. I went to film school back in 2002 to 2005, and obviously I've got to know quite a few guys who developed their filmmaking career as well. So Ben Jones was his name. He puts out a lot of these little snippets of experimental filmmaking, and I sort of saw the opportunity there to like reconnect with that old friend and work with him. And so really it's that all that stuff's come from his brain. But we had conversations leading up to the shoot and what the kind of thing, referencing the work that he'd put out before and what kind of vibe I was going for. And the Peter Gabriel video did come up. I said, this is a kind of inspiration. Take that one to 11 and see what you can do. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So you mentioned about 6 months into fatherhood now, and
right, yeah. I'm new dad.
Boy,
it's a seismic change to not single life, but just married couple life. Absolutely. It's a love you can't describe, and we're very blessed to have a baby son. He arrived after I'd recorded and written everything, so it's like all these great things started manifesting in my life. This album, the newborn baby, and later on this new project with Neil Morse and video, getting tongue-tied, Divigilio came up, and so I have this newborn, and I have this kind of photography day job, and now I have to fit in this recording, and it was a big task to juggle all three. And I ended up recording a lot of that stuff at like 2 a.m, and the baby is settled, and it was crazy, a very tiring time, but hey, it's worth it.
We don't want to reveal too much about the Troika project, but is there just anything you want to just mention on that to kind of whet people's appetites? I know it doesn't come out till beginning of next year, but that's more of an acoustic approach, right?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a whole round of press for that nearer the time, but we're really excited to announce that. I'm completely blessed to have been invited to join these two legends in the first place. So yeah, it's a real experience for me. I was very proud of the result. Anyone expecting Spock's Beard meets Haken will be probably both disappointed and extremely impressed in equal measures. But
are you just doing vocals on that, or do you play some guitar as well?
No, I feature on guitar as well, so it's
nice,
which is also really cool. I don't think Neil even was aware I could play guitar when he invited me to do this, so
right on.
It's really nice to be able to share that as well.
Fantastic. So you've also got some live shows coming up for this new album, and how are you feeling about those? Are going to be solo shows, right?
Yeah, at the time of booking these, I don't think anyone thought that live music would be back in a big way yet, but obviously it's certainly here in the UK, things are pretty much back to normal now with that kind of thing, and so we stuck to UK shows and acoustic only, but now I realise we probably could have put a band together and done proper shows. But hey, I'm sticking with it, and I'm based on how successful my Acoustic Shadows live stream was and how that came across. I just wanted to take that around the country and perform these songs solo. They could be a lot more intimate. I could tell some stories and be really connected with the audience rather than having to worry about the larger scale kind of show. It's going to be something I've not really done for quite some time when I used to play back in pubs and the local high street. So it's going to be pubs and bars. It's kind of bringing that essence back again, and that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And how is that for you personally? Do you just look forward and it feels like a relaxing thing, or is this a little bit edgy for you because you haven't done this in a while?
It's a bit of both, yeah. I'm conscious about how much goes into like preparing for Haken shows and what else, and and I'm not really doing so much of that. I'm really just relying on I'm channeling just me and my guitar, so that's going to be weird, and I'm sort of got that weird conscience going on about that, but I think it's going to be cool. I'm also at the same time, relaxed about it, and going to try and make it as fun as possible, basically.
Sweet. Any chance you'll expand that and bring it to the States or elsewhere?
Possibly not as an acoustic thing, but I'd love to, connect the band, the core band that's on the record, and actually do at least a mini tour with those guys and see where it goes. I think that would be awesome. Yeah, we'll watch the space.
Excellent. Well, great. And you just mentioned it briefly there. I had seen you reference it on Facebook as a hobby, your photography, but you just mentioned it as like a day job thing. What fill us in for those who don't know about what place photography holds in your life?
Yeah, I've always been apprehensive about sort of sharing that, because I don't do a lot of the creative photography I'd like to do. It's really been portraiture. I'd go into schools and I do weddings and events, and occasionally I get to shoot live bands and things like that. But I'd always wanted to keep the two worlds very separate. But I've kind of come to terms with the fact that it's a part of me and who I am. So as much as I'd love to make that transition completely, I still need to feed my family, and rock and roll isn't quite doing that yet. So. Well, who knows? If this album is super successful, I might be able to put the camera down, but that's always going to be a part of me, and I think even if I'm not doing that as a day job, I enjoy taking photos. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like more and more of you is showing up now, so yeah. I think sky's the limit there.
I think I've learned to just embrace who I am, and that's been a big part of the whole essence of making this record.
Right. And you're about to get, even before your solo shows, you're going to get back on stage here real soon with the band and with the Novena show. So you must be really excited.
Yeah, lots happening. See, that album, The 11th Hour by Novena, that came out just before everything locked down. So we didn't get to celebrate that properly. And so finally we're able to kind of perform that material live. And it's really intense stuff, and it's really powerful music. And I've just come from a rehearsal, actually, going through that stuff, and it's sounding really tight and really good. So hopefully, it's gonna go down really well, and really excited about that. And that's another project that might see the light of day in the States at some point as well. So
right,
we'll keep an eye out. Keep supporting music, and we'll eventually get there.
Yeah, well, you've got many things in the pipelines, and you just announced the Haken support slot for Symphony X, right, next year. And...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, big influence on us, Symphony X. So that's a super big deal for us to be on the road with those guys. I'm looking forward to getting some tips from the master that is Russell Allen, and just a phenomenal vocalist, and I'm sure I'll be picking up a few tips from him on the way. Yeah, just big inspiration.
Wow. Well, no shortage of activity in your world, so all the best to you, especially to this solo album, because it's fantastic. I really enjoyed the diversity of it, and just the strength of the songwriting and performance. So
I really appreciate it. Thanks for your support. I hope people go out and buy it, and even if it's a guilty pleasure for the year for you guys, and it's
no apologies.
Do enjoy it. It's all good fun. It's really what it's about.
Nice. Well, great talking to you, Ross. Thanks for spending the time.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Cheers.